It's really hard to eat keto when you don't know what to make for supper, what to make for lunch, what to make for breakfast. I think I get a lot of questions from you guys trying to figure out like what should we be eating because it seems so different than the standard American diet. Hello, Wellness Warriors. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet,
And I'm Pat.
and today we're talking about food.
So one of you wellness warriors wants to know if we have eggs. Actually, eggs is a big part of our diet.
I know that I have eggs at least once a week, sometimes twice. And honestly, I don't plan to have eggs. Eggs is what I have when I'm kind of hungry but don't have a desire to be in the kitchen for more than 5 minutes. Then I'll eat eggs, and so that's easy. It's a simple
Yeah.
way to have a quick meal.
There's so many ways you can do eggs. That you can have eggs. You could have eggs every day and cook them differently and never be tired of it. Although I have maybe one question for you: should we mind the carb per egg if you want to do super low carbs, or actually even does eggs have their place in a carnivore diet, for example?
So I think yes. I mean, the amount of carbs in an egg is, I think it's 0.5, right?
I think it's even one.
Is it one? Okay.
Yeah.
It's very low. If you think about it, like on the days that I have eggs, it's like I have eggs, bacon, maybe some cheese. The carb count of that meal, considering especially that it's the only meal that I'm having in that day, because I only eat one meal a day, it's not that high of a carb day.
Yeah.
Usually I'm either having egg salad where I'm adding some mayo to it. So again,
And some chicken, actually, that's very good. Like you add some meat to your egg salad, that makes it a little bit like more protein.
that is true.
Yes.
Sometimes I do add
So-
chicken to it. So again, I feel like eggs is an easy one because I'm either having eggs with bacon, eggs with chicken. Do I have eggs alone? I really just haven't
Yeah.
a boiled egg, but theoretically you could if you like just straight boiled eggs. A omelet, make omelets. So I never put any veg in my omelet though. So, but there is cream, so there's more carbs there.
One thing
Eggs
that
are an easy way.
one thing that I like, if you do egg salad, for example, is to use pork rinds as a little crisp to put them on. So that's like another zero carb option to for your eggs. So-
I can honestly say the other day I had eggs and I just ate like I had egg salad
And-
with chicken in it and I just ate it straight like that. I didn't even get through the whole thing. I was done halfway through. It's so easy to eat healthy, have something delicious, and wait, I should mention in the egg salad there's mayonnaise, Dijon mayonnaise. So there's probably carb in that, although it's a very small amount. I think it's like 5. It's not even a teaspoon. So it's like
Okay. Of your Dijon.
of the Dijon.
Yeah, it's probably like close to zero. if I remember correctly.
And mayonnaise,
Add
salt and
zero.
pepper.
Yeah.
It's very,
So it's very
very
low carb.
simple meal. But again, you guys know me. I like simple, easy. I'm eating to fuel and to build. I'm not eating because, this is so. And again, I think this is part of why we're making this video. People keep asking us what we eat as if living this lifestyle, at least for me, like if living this lifestyle is about what we eat. It so isn't. It's about feeling better. It's about having more energy. It's about being able to do what I want with my family, with my body even, and not being in pain. The last 3 years of my life, we're getting up on 3 years in April, is the first time in my entire life since I was in my 20s that I can honestly say I lived days in a row not in pain. Like, I'm not counting the times that I fell and all those things, because like then of course I did live pain. But I'm saying in between my falls, doing my activities, I had days where I wasn't in pain. Which, I mean, don't take my word for it. He's sitting right there. Like, there were numerous times where we did nothing and I'm waking up and my shoulder hurts, my back hurts, my knee hurts. I can't pick up something because my elbow's hurting. Doesn't happen anymore. So like I want you guys, we're sharing what we've been eating, and we're answering some questions that you guys had for us, but I want you to keep it in mind. We don't do this because the meals that we're gonna make are so amazing, although they taste
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
There's a bigger reason at play why we do what we do.
By now, you probably know that we are Caesar salad lovers. So we have a question about the Caesar dressing that we use, if we make it or if we buy it. I would say be careful if you decide to buy it. Check the label in the back. Avoid obviously the low-fat kind of Caesar dressing that's going to be higher in sugar. We did try making our own, although our own was using mayonnaise as like the base. It was good, but I would say our lazy nature that we did find one brand that we like and has zero carbs, and we mostly use that one.
Actually,
So,
when I did make from scratch, the consistency I didn't like. That was the problem. One thing that I will say is that like using like first of all, Caesar salad dressing is easy to make if you're not lazy in the kitchen. Like sincerely, there's no
yeah.
reason that we buy this. It's such a simple recipe. I think most people buy it either because you've not looked up how to make it,
Mhm.
or you're like me and you're lazy. When I made it, I made a good amount. If the consistency would have been better, I probably would have continued making because it didn't take me all that long actually.
Mm.
But you know, actually, I'm lying. Even if the consistency was good, I wouldn't have kept making it. I'm just that lazy in the
Yeah.
kitchen. However, if you want to do it, like honestly, just look up the way to
Sure.
make it, and instead of using the bad quality oil that they're going to tell you to
Mhm.
use either avocado oil or olive oil, or you can buy a nice avocado oil or olive oil mayonnaise
Mm.
and just use that as the base to make your salad dressing, which is another thing that we've done. Honestly, you can go on to some of the websites because they exist that sell keto products.
Yeah.
I mean, Caesar dressing is not a
Oh, yeah,
keto
sure.
product, but you can go and find the ones that have avocado oil or olive oil as the base for the Caesar dressing
Mhm.
and make it. Again, I'm not saying a brand because, and here's why. It's like even if they list things that say that it's avocado, but there's no guarantee that there aren't
Mhm.
other oils. I've purchased olive oil, and to get home and like when I'm doing my research on it, find out the way that they worded something. When I did double check what it meant that it was olive oil plus other oils. So everybody needs to do their own research and find the one that you're the most
Yeah.
comfortable with, because that's what's going to help you to feel comfortable in what you're doing. So I don't want to say a brand
Yeah.
because I don't believe that I can guarantee you that the brand I'm going to say doesn't sometimes have other oils in it.
But once you have your base mayonnaise with the good quality oil, the rest is really simple. Like just look it up. You don't even need to look for a keto Caesar dressing recipe. Just look for a Caesar dressing recipe. Basically, it's almost all zero carb stuff. Like once you have your mayonnaise, it's anchovy paste and like
Spices.
some spice. Yeah, thank you. Some spices, and you're gonna have your Caesar dressing. I never realized that it was anchovy paste with like Parmesan cheese, and so it's really really
I mean,
simple.
you can use real anchovies too. That's what I did when I made it.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, it tastes amazing. And
Yeah.
honestly, if you have the time, if you like being in the kitchen, make it from scratch. That way, you know exactly what's in it, and you don't have to be worried about like the ingredients. I don't know if there's a way to get around how lazy I am in the
Mm.
kitchen, so I do
Yeah.
the easy route. But like, I encourage everybody, do what's better. Make it yourself.
Mm.
It's not hard.
Another question we had about the croutons. So like the question is, what do we use instead of the croutons? We don't use anything
Yeah.
actually. We just like don't put them for our own salad.
No, even sometimes the kids. Like when we
Mm.
have Caesar salad, I don't buy croutons.
Mhm.
I do not buy croutons. So at my house, the kids eat their Caesar salad
Without.
without croutons because Val doesn't buy croutons, right? If we're at your place, they get them. And guess what? They don't complain,
Yeah.
right? They're just happy that we're having a Caesar salad.
Like I have also this other question for you, like something to say for the viewers. Like it's not because you have a recipe for a Caesar salad that you cannot change stuff. So the croutons we take out, and what the other thing that you like to do with your cheese? You like to replace your cheese actually, and
Actually,
it's very
yes.
good.
Myself, I like to put feta cheese in my Caesar salad. My daughter likes mozzarella in her Caesar salad. Sometimes you
The
put feta, sometimes you
yeah
put Parmesan. The boys tend to put Parmesan, but we
Mhm.
haven't really offered them other varieties
Yeah.
actually. Whenever they're there, we just automatically make theirs with Parmesan. But that's exactly it. It's like just because a recipe calls for bread doesn't mean that you have to have it with bread.
Mhm.
I mean, we've talked often about having hamburgers with lettuce leaves and other. It's like it's not because a recipe calls for something you're gonna have it that way. Think about if you were allergic to something, you're not gonna have an allergic reaction because the recipe
Because
called
it's
for it.
yeah.
You'd leave it out. It's the same kind of thing. We need to all understand that the carbohydrates that we've been eating are not doing us any good. And we should sincerely look at them like they're the toxic ingredient that they are, and whenever possible, leave them out.
Sometimes I even like, because salad is one of the good vegetable you can have on keto. It's really low carb. Not even going to the extent of making a full Caesar salad. You just put salad and the dressing and have like some side with your meat. I do that often, like, because the dressing we use is like zero carbs. So yeah, like, if you want to buy your dressings, because I'm back to on the dressing, just make sure, like, for everything anyway, just make sure you read the labels and read the ingredients, and
Make sure you're
leave
comfortable.
out, yeah, leave out what you're not comfortable with, and they just take what you're comfortable with, and like, you can easily have a very, very, very low carb meal. Another question we had was about the pizza that we make sometimes, like the full meat pizza versus the pork rinds. So we have a viewer saying, all meat pizza using pork rinds. That's one thing I've never fixed, and I like rinds. But we don't, like, when we do the pizza with the pork rinds, we don't put meat in it.
Yeah,
Basically,
so
it's cheese and pork rinds, right?
So I do remember this
Pizza.
question. I talked about 3 or 4 different recipes that we had done for pizza. So there's obviously the fathead dough that everybody knows about. There's the cauliflower, the pork rind,
We didn't
and
have
then
much
all
success
meat.
with the cauliflower though. Wasn't like, I don't know what we missed, or like
So I made it
wasn't
more than
holding.
once,
Okay.
and I think, but I just didn't like it. I didn't find that that was a great use of cauliflower, and all the other things that we make with cauliflower taste so amazing. And then you have the pizza. It was just not pleasant.
Okay.
So one of the few times I can say I didn't like cauliflower in something. The all meat pizza crust is actually all meat. So there was another channel, and I'll give them credit because they're the one that came up with this idea. It's Keto Connect that I saw it on. But their recipe had so many ingredients that actually, when I looked at the situation, I thought it was unnecessary. And so many steps. I mean, again, lazy cook. But at the same time, I was taught how to cook by a chef. So I know that there were certain things that were happening in there that didn't need to happen. If you've got egg and you've got chicken and you mix it together properly and you lay it down, it's going to make a crust because the egg is going to hold it together. It's the same principle behind making a hamburger. It's the egg that holds it together. Another thing I'm going to say about that question, he was mixing 2 things together. So the pork rind one, which was another one that I did, we did figure it out. It actually works pretty well. I cannot remember who was the first person that I saw that talked about pork rind pizza crust. So unfortunately, I cannot give them credit because I even looked it up. I researched. I cannot remember who was the first person that I saw. It's a bit more involved, which is why I don't do it often. Again, simple, easy. That's what Violet likes.
You don't use meat, so it's basically what, pork rinds, a little bit of coconut flour. What makes it? What makes it all together? Like an egg? I guess you have an egg, or
This is where I will say again that having some knowledge about how to cook, so I do know how to cook, even though I hate it, helps us in these situations. Because when I look at a recipe, I can look at the recipe and try to figure out, like, what pieces am I keeping and what pieces need to be there so that this recipe is going to work. Because I do understand recipes. Because my dad did teach me pretty well how to understand and how to create a good recipe. That being said, there's some things in the recipe that I didn't keep, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, almond flour was one of the things I took out. I took the almond flour out because I react to almonds. So again, if you have problems with something, take it out. Figure out a way to change it, or don't make that recipe. I have problems with almonds, so I took the almond flour out. And I used all coconut flour, which means I needed to recalculate how much coconut flour, because almond flour is like pretty much 1-to-1, where coconut flour is like, I think, 20% or 30%, something like that. I'd have to go check again. But in the end, almost everything else, I think I left pretty standard. Yeah. So just saying that, yes, there's egg, but it's really is a dough that you're
Okay.
making.
Yeah.
Um,
And it doesn't taste like the pork rinds too much.
No,
Also,
honestly-
like, it's one of the good crusts like you make.
it's weirdly tasty in the sense
Yeah,
that,
sure.
like, the pork, because I don't like pork rinds. So he does, I don't. So I was concerned when I was making this recipe because I really don't like pork rinds. But I thought, you know what, give it a shot. When you mix things together, they don't always taste the way that you think they're going to taste. And I was right. You mix it together, it tasted completely different. And so I was okay with it. For almost everything that you're going to do in terms of recipes, it's important for you to try them out and see like, well, it's not important for you to try them out. I mean, if you want to eat that thing, then you're going to try them out, right? I think what's more important is for you to be focusing on what's a healthy thing for me to eat. The pork rind one, in here, so let me just go through it again. The only place you're actually getting carbs in this recipe is going to be from maybe the psyllium husk, the coconut flour. There is some carb in egg and cream cheese, the garlic powder. And the garlic powder, I mean, it's like minuscule amount. The Italian seasoning, again, it's minuscule amount. The nutritional yeast, minuscule amount. And I don't believe there's any in xanthan gum, but don't quote me on that. So like the truth is when we did all the math, made the actual pizza, because I have one meal a day, that's the first part. I never go over my 20, ever. So, sorry?
And it fits. Like it fits.
And it
that
absolutely
pizza
fit.
that we have, it fits in your.
It absolutely fit. And the truth is, even if it didn't fit, I would have just eaten the amount that I could eat.
Okay. One word of maybe of caution for our wellness warriors. We're just talking about pizza. We have one chain here in Montreal that has all those alternative crusts that they sell on their menu. Do your research on that too. It's not because they sell you the keto crust or the cauliflower crust. As a matter of fact, that we were like all yeah, there's a cauliflower crust. But when we started digging and like check their provider of that crust, there was rice flour and there was a bunch of flours in that crust too. So even if one like chain or restaurant tells you, yeah, we have a keto crust, just make sure that like you have access to the ingredient and you can validate what's in that in the recipe that of the crust they sell.
Yeah.
So you need
and
to
I
be
think that's
careful.
for everything. When you go to the store and you're buying your groceries, you're going to see keto products. Processed food is processed food.
Yeah.
Honestly, I know I can't tell you what to do, but a healthy ketogenic diet is not about processed foods, right? We need to be careful. If we're still looking for these processed things, we have to wonder: are we just trying to find the easy way out? And the easy way out is not necessarily the way that's going to give you the best health.
The second part of that wellness warriors question, I do find interesting. So he goes about, I'm scared of trying new things because I've ruined so many foods I've attempted to make. Tried some tortilla shells again, and these fell apart. I'm not sure what I did wrong. I did find this interesting because like it's a little bit part of the fun of trying new things. You don't have to be like scared of trying new things. I've tried so many recipes of pancakes that I wanted to do for my boys with almond flour, coconut flour, and honestly, like they just like they didn't fluff. They were like glue. You have to try stuff because how many times I've even looked at keto recipe online to try those recipes that didn't work at all. Like you follow the instruction to the letter, and like you have that picture of like fluffy pancakes, and like when you cook them, they're not at all like that. But you have to try. I think you have to try like you did with your recipe. I think it's a nice segue.
I'm gonna slightly disagree. I understand what he's saying though. These keto products or baking products are so expensive. That when you think about trying something and then like $30, well, maybe not 30, but like $7 or $8 later, it didn't come out or it didn't taste right or it didn't, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say something. I've said it to you a bunch of times, but I'm going to say it to you guys. There's a lot of times where I see they're trying to tell me that these keto products are going to produce a fluffy, and right away I'm just like, huh? How is it fluffy? Almonds is not flour. So how is it rising? Coconut is not flat. How is it rising? So unless, like in the case of the crust that I made, you have so much egg in there that the egg is puffing up. Sometimes we watch videos and sometimes we see people promoting things and they're trying to get you to do something that when you do it, it doesn't work. And maybe you try 5, 6, 7 times because you're saying, I'm the one making a mistake. And is it possible that they're just presenting something to you so that they can get their videos spread throughout because, hey, look what I was able to do. But in reality, it's not possible. It just doesn't work. Right. And I'm not saying don't try things. What I'm saying is if you can afford to try, then try. If it doesn't work out, it's not necessarily because, I mean, it could be because you don't know how to cook. I mean, that's a possibility. Or it could be because what they were telling you was going to happen. How would that happen? How is coconut flour or almond flour going to rise with baking powder? Like, to me, again, the density of almond flour, I don't know. I have a hard time with that one.
Well, you have a good point. Like I was, to be honest, I was trying. Yeah, it can be expensive, but we're at a point where we bake so little now that I was just like trying to, okay, let me try to make something with the little remain. I think it was arrowroot flour that I had that's supposedly low carb, but like didn't work at all. So in the end, I ended up throwing the flour anyway because I wasn't using it. But like it was just a little test I wanted to do like before it took like the garbage route. So.
And I think the other thing I'm going to point out, because you were talking about tortilla shells, that was part of what fell apart. I've seen in the store that they're selling like these layers of cheese that you can use for tortilla shells and all these kind of things. And the price that they're charging you for like 50 grams of cheese because they've pre-sliced it for you, either A, buy a slicer and slice your own cheese. You're going to make it better, you're going to do better for yourself. Or either B, buy a block of cheese, grate it in a pan, melt it, let it cool off. You have the same product, right? I find actually you have it better because it's already melted so that when you put your stuff in it, it's like it doesn't actually fall apart, which I've done, and it was great. We need to be willing sometimes if you want that thing to do the work. Again, I've gotten to the point where I've decided I just don't want that thing. I would rather use a lettuce leaf, or I like easy that much. But if you don't care to do the work, then just do the work yourself. Because like 50 grams of cheese for like $7-8 to me, I can't. That's robbery, man. Like
but you'd be surprised. You have a good point, and I didn't like take it in for that video, but like people were talking about cabbage versus lettuce, and it's amazing what like lettuce and cabbage can replace in your meals, like whether it's burgers or even tortillas. We have tacos with cabbage. It's a matter of like for cabbage, cooking it just the right time for it not to fall apart and to be not too rough, too hard to eat. But with lettuce, with like romaine leaves, we use that very, very often, and like it's holding pretty good for burgers, for tortillas, like I said, for tacos. So yeah.
And when we're trying to do things healthy versus trying to do things processed, it's amazing what you can figure out. And I mean, honestly, we've named 2 leaves, the 2 leaves that we like. I'm sure there are other large leaves out there that people could be using if you like those other types of lettuces or other types of vegetables that have large leaves. We just named the 2 that we actually like. Obviously, I agree on some level with what he's saying, that it can be scary to try new things if the ingredients you're using are expensive. The flip side of the coin is, if you don't try new things, how are you going to know if you're going to like it, right? Does it have to look perfect for it to taste good? Which is another thing, right? Like, I think sometimes we're so focused on it looking like the package that we lose sight of the fact that I'm going to chew this up anyways in a few minutes, right? I think as long as you're fueling your body appropriately, that's what's more important. Baking and these replacement things that we try to make, I still want everybody to question, is that really the best use of your time, that you're trying to replace pancakes or replace cookies or replace bread and all these fun foods that were making us sick, were making us fat? Why are we trying to replace them? How about eat for fuel, eat for building blocks, and find your fun somewhere else? There's some videos on the screen right here that are going to help you to improve your mental and physical health. I love making these videos for you guys, Wellness Warriors. I'm so happy that you guys still come back, and the new people, welcome. I'm so happy to see that there's new people joining us. I want to thank you for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. Can't wait to talk to you guys again next week.
Talk to you next week.